T's and I's to that contract to expedite getting those out to the different clubs, hopefully before your next meeting, I would absolutely support that. But I wanna make sure that we don't just start all over because of anything, not wanting to work with Great West for some reason.
Yeah. Well,
So that would be my
here's
stipulation.
my concern. He's not a lawyer, he's an engineer, so if you pay him for drafting contracts, he is guilty of practicing law without a license. And that doesn't make any sense to me why we would do that. So I thought all along this guy was a lawyer, and I'm like, let me talk to this lawyer so I can figure out why he drafted it this way. And I find out today he's an engineer. So I don't care if he's an expert, that you have to have.
Nobody's
you have to
been
have legal-
practicing law, Corey.
You don't know that, that's not your call.
It
So-
is, I actually
No, that's not.
verified with
We can argue about it
Mako
later.
that we
Let
could
the-
have
if we
him
have
draft
an attorney who
the,
they're willing to hire and willing to do it.
the straw
pass
horse.
the bar exam, let him do it. If this guy's billing the county for work he's done drafting contracts on behalf of any legal entity, he's breaking the law. You can't pay him for that.
So, Mr. Chairman, if you would like, I don't know if the motion's been made, but I will move to move forward and allow the trust board, working with the rec board, to complete the 11 items, approve the grant as the funding source, and hire an attorney, so we don't hamstring you guys, to go ahead and give the contracts the legal review they require to expedite this process and get it to the clubs.
Is there
And
a
the
second?
signage.
I would second what I would add to it, that the trust board has the funding authority.
Motion's been made and seconded. Is there any more discussion?
Point of clarification,
Yeah.
are we then required, the trust board is required to fund the $24,000 grant? Is that what I'm understanding here?
Yes. Yes, because that's already been put together to take care of those 11 items. So why start those all over again when you already have a mechanism that's been,
The contracts are
together
probably
specific to that.
$2,000 of that 24,000, so, and I'm,
it's line items, so we don't have to do all of them, like I said, it's all a
Okay.
carte, so.
but we have to fund the 24,000.
No, it's a la carte, so if you take line item 1 of $1,000 and you use that service, you pay $1,000. If line item 2, in there is legal review. If you don't use an attorney with Great West Engineering, you're not gonna pay for legal review by Great West Engineering. I don't know what else is in there by memory, but Great West has it all itemized in their grant. If you want to take pieces out, that's fine, but what I don't want to see is, this work has already been started. It was already started through joint meetings together between the trust board and the recreation board. Why step over here and start all over when you've already got a strong foundation started over here that already is ready to go? I just want to ensure that we streamline rather than starting all over and start reinventing wheels.
If I understood or misunderstood, your motion was to fund the grant as it was submitted to the trust board, the 24,000.
I said approve the grant. So,
So that would be the $24,000 grant that the rec board gave the trust board.
if the trust board wanted to come back after a special meeting and say, we took out these items, or we proposed
That's
taking
what I
out
wanted.
these
I just want
items
clarity.
with working with the recreation board, I don't think this board would have an issue with that as long as we have it in black and white, and the reasons why, and a consensus.
So we would need the trust board would need an amended grant application after the two groups get together and pick and choose.
Or perhaps you do it in the meeting.
That's,
I would say, bring the two groups together.
oh yeah,
And work together on it, and then come to us as two united boards working to bring this to fruition.
I see in Great Western's request, the draft leases are $1,000 worth of the cost estimate. So of the $24,350, $1,000 are allocated for drafting new leases. So it's not a large amount, and our board would agree on that immediately. I mean, when we get together, we allocate $1,000. And that's not saying that we would not, I'm wondering if it wouldn't be better to get away from, we're bogged down in this lease, or contract with Great Western. Personally, I would feel better as a trust board member allocating $50,000 to the recreation board. They've already got 60. That'd give them $110,000. That'd give them a heck of a jump. They can burn it all up in studies, and we wouldn't be very happy about that, but we wouldn't give them 50 in the future either. But I would entertain from my group, give them $50,000. It's not the money. We're getting bogged down in the process of this Great Western contractor. We don't want to be involved in that. That is, we want to get this ground transferred and locked. We've got way too much time and effort in. So,
I want to correct studies. There isn't at least the meetings I was at with the rec board, there was never a motion to just start doing studies. They were charged with putting together a survey of what the public wanted to see done with the 4 properties acquired from National Park Service. That's in those 11 items. It was the trust board that said, hey, while you're at it, do it county-wide. There's no studies, it's just the survey, their requirement per NPS, and your suggestion is the trust board. So no studies, just survey of what is there for recreation so that the public knows what's there and can move forward with giving their comments.
we think that survey, we encourage that because it gives public input. We really like the idea. $24,000. Pretty expensive, but their decision. We're not going to second guess that.
Mr. Chairman, I have a question. Monday, you guys approved spending, or paying the $4,100, I think, to Great West for this?
4,000, yes.
4,100-ish. What else have they done? Because if the contracts eat up, let's say 1,600, what else have they done?
What I would request is when you have your joint meeting to actually flesh this out, bring in Jerry. Let him speak for what he's already shared with the Recreation Board, and we can get you a copy of the claim, but he also started that survey work that I was telling you about.
So he has
after
started
your-
that.
Well, yeah, but now it's stalemated.
If I may speak on behalf of the Recreation Board, our last meeting was October 25th at 6:30 a.m. at the Bay. Our next meeting will be in this room on November 19th at 5:30 p.m. When we initially presented with Jerry, we presented him with all the information that we had from studies that had been performed by BCDC, the Rotary Club, other organizations in town, and we said, these are the resources that we have for recreation. Mr. Christopherson submitted some great comments about what he'd like to see other individuals, maybe Mr. McCullough did, other people. So this is what we'd like to see the community do. We gave that to Mr. Greenback as a resource to develop on and build on. Our goal is to move forward. We are meeting once a month. We are volunteers. We are fiscally strained. We are time overstrained. So, you know, we welcome any help and support, and we just want to see things come together and things move forward.
With the exception of in the motion caveating that we are mandated to fund this and mandated to work jointly with the rec board. If you make that a mandate, all of a sudden, we're hamstrung because we can't proceed without group vote, group cooperation. We will certainly take their input. If you could exclude some of that stuff, but we certainly take their input. We plan on carrying on. We'll get, we paid, the rec board's already paid for Jerry's studies and time here, and I presume it's that draft. We're gonna use that to carry forward. Don't put those caveats on us. If you do, we're back to the speed of government. That's not a good thing. We have 5 months.
I agree with Sheila on that.
I will amend my motion that you consider the grant and fully engage the Recreation Board and Jerry Grabentz. in your process moving forward and come to us as soon as possible so that we can ensure this gets done and streamlined. Because you don't even need to come to us because we're already approving the money. But I'm gonna throw out an olive branch, and I'm just gonna leave it there. You guys have a great resource in that recreation board. And nothing's more important about this subject than getting this done. Right now, it's in jeopardy. And I hope and pray that we can get it done in a responsible way. So I'm just gonna leave my motion there.
We appreciate that, and we rescind any resistance to that. And yes, we will work with the rec board.
Yeah, Tim?
Just a real quick question, Mr. Chairman. Maybe Mr. McCullough can answer, or maybe perhaps you folks can answer, but because we have payments going to Great Northwestern, there's been a question on the contract not being necessarily run before the Canyon Prairie Trust Board prior to this agreement being made. We have, from our understanding, we have federal funding that's involved in the Canyon Prairie Trust funding mechanisms. Maybe there's a separate account here, but at any rate, making sure that the public knows where all of this funding is coming from and being authorized and appropriately spent. So just a clarification for the public would be awesome.
Not sure that it is federal funding.
Okay?
There were no federal funds. In the $3 million we've received, it was $11,067 and either 15 or 17 cents per lot on the 265 lots that were sold. The only addition of that money that was paid by each lot holder was $10,000 from State Bank of Townsend. When we ran out of funds, from a county standpoint, we had no recreational funds to send people to DC and do brochures and things like that. We did to sell this project. State Bank of Townsend volunteered $10,000. So that's other than the $11,000 per lot and State Bank's $10,000. There's no federal money.
Thank you. Just a real quick follow-up, and the reason I asked the question is because the county does have a contract with Bureau of Reclamation for the management of these areas, and so there is an oversight there that sometimes and a lot of times does come into play when local government is working on these projects. So that's the reason for the question and the clarification. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Mr. Chairman, as of hopefully January 1st, the trust board, as you already approved last month, will have its own website. And a lot of these, how did it start, the background, meetings, everything will be on the website. And we'll link it to the county. So I think that will help educate the public.
Okay. So we'll call for the vote on the issues there. All in favor of the motion to approve trust board's handling of these 11 points plus working together with the rec board? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, same. Motion carries. Okay, we can move on to the silos.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
I did want to address some of the things brought up, so in this discussion, we can do that.
So the Silos Campground Boat Docks lease renewal.
I think that's us. But basically, we would just like to have a chance to bid on the the recreation site with the lease and see if,
Sir, would you give me your name, please?
Joe Bushilla.
Just like it sounds.
Yeah,
How do you spell it?
Bushilla.
I'm actually the better looking half of this duo.
That'd be all.
And
So-
you would be?
Sean Jacobs, SHAWN. So we're here to ask for consideration to put in a bid for managing the Silos Rec area.
And my understanding with this lease is that 90 days before the season, this lease can be canceled and rebid.
Yes.
Go ahead.
Nope, that's true. Yep, so, be in January, that we would start the process.
Okay.
Okay. Anything else you need from us?
Anything you guys wanna share?
Well, we're just new owners at the Silos Junction, and we plan to be here, and we wanna be a part of the community. I pretty much live there, so I would always be there, and I'd like to be able to entertain maybe a smoother process and do dual, like, maybe have them or something, count the money together, have a joint account, so they get their money, and, you know, we get our portion for the work we do as well. That's how I feel about it, and share an account with them, so they get their money, and we work for our money. So, that's how I feel about it.
We're definitely looking at expanding our business and somewhat integrating, not necessarily integrating it with our business, but it fits in our business model, and we're not going anywhere. There's definitely been some interesting, very false rumors that we're selling. That is absolutely not true. Actually, a website even showed up with somebody put our name out there for $400,000. We're not selling it, just so we're clear. And we're not going. I took a picture of the building and put it out there. We are definitely not selling and not going anywhere. And we're still, I guess, fairly young in the grand scheme of life. So anyway, yeah, we're definitely looking at doing that. I am also the Canyon Ferry Walleye Festival tournament director. And that's a huge weekend for that thing, and I manage all of that, and it definitely fits well with that. And I know that's only one small weekend out of a year, but it's the biggest weekend that recreation site sees. So, and I manage that as well. So it just fits, and we are definitely interested in it. So we're very motivated. Okay.
Thank you.
All right. Thanks, you guys.
Thank you.
So I guess I have a question for Steve. You know, you loaned $61,000 for the purchase of these docks that we were supposed to get 20% return on. Was that 20% go to you, or does that go to does it go to the trust board, or does it go to the county?
Actually, we attempted to earmark that for the recreation board. We were trying to find funding for the recreation board. So in our discussion, we earmarked that for the recreation board. Looking at the Canyon Ferry bill, it appears all money would go back, but that was, all the money goes back from the concessionaire on the lease would go back. That really doesn't even pertain to the lease. We had an agreement where we had $150,000, $170,000 worth of boat docks out there. We said, give us 20% of that money back, and put it over in this fund. So that was a sidebar agreement, had nothing to do with the leases. That was just an agreement between Sharon Walker and the commission was involved, but that was a sidebar agreement.
Has that been received?
None.
None?
Steve, what year was that?
2013, I believe.
Steve, I have a question for you too. This piece of paper, can you provide what it came from? This is the one that has any income generated by concessions, must be, may be spent by the trust manager as part of the income of the trust. Can you provide the full documentation for context?
The original for that should be here in the courthouse.
Okay, I'll see what we have.
Okay.
What I did find is Luxon and Murfitt, attorneys at law, they carried in 1999, took the trust account through the process of making it an SS4 form, or through the tax exempt status for it. And it states that the money shall be used for recreation at the silos. I can get a copy of this, but it talks about why it was established. It shall be used for improvements, infrastructure, creation and improvement of existing recreational areas within the silos area. So what I'm wondering is how do we marry all this information? We may need to get another attorney involved, perhaps, again, the city
Potentially.
attorney.
You know, Luxon and Murfitt applying for the tax exempt status, they may have misstated part of it. Is it enough for a legal challenge? Absolutely not. The Canyon Ferry bill states that we can use the money at the silos or for other recreational things in Broadwater County. And I believe that's in Budowitz's paragraph there also.
And I'm not looking at a legal challenge, I'm looking for education.
Yeah.
What are the parameters? In 2013, in the audit, or with the auditors, we learned that the silos is an enterprise fund. Money earned in an enterprise fund cannot be used for another fund. That was set up before my time, perhaps before your time, but somehow that fund was set up, how it marries to either Luxon and Murfitt's information or the creation of the trust board, I don't know. But when the auditor says you shall, regarding the budget, we typically follow what he tells us. Perhaps there is more to learn, I don't know, but I think we need to dig into that a bit more.
Classifying it as an enterprise fund from an auditor standpoint does not supersede Congress. And our bill was, and this was all established by Congress. So we don't want to hide behind, oh, an auditor said it's an enterprise fund, so we're required to leave all the money there. And I really don't have a problem with leaving all the money that's generated at the silos at the silos. The problem I have is that contract is so poorly written and you're earning so little money now from something that is such a fabulous cash cow that it's not even just able to stay above water. You're having to loan up money to stay above water. That thing is milk that cow.
Well,
Bring that cash in.
We haven't loaned them any money in the budget process to meet our deadlines so that we didn't have any negatives. And I'm sure you remember this from being a commissioner. We temporarily loaned. At the time, we didn't have the final payment from the season from JSJ. So we approved the budget in August. That's still prime camping boating season. So there's a lag there. So yes, we did loan to the fund, not to JSJ. We loaned to the fund, we got the check from JSJ, they're actually writing in the surplus right now, and I don't know what it is off
I think
the
that
top of my
contract
head.
reads that money comes
So-
in monthly and use comes in monthly, doesn't it?
Yeah, but we have gone to seasonally because of how busy it gets.
Shouldn't that
So-
contract be rewritten?
It needs to be rewritten, there's absolutely no question about it. It's sitting at about 9,700 right now. Well, that's revenue, so give or take. But, yeah, I just wanted to make sure that we have the facts on the ground. There was no loan specifically to JSJ, and they are not in a deficit. They are in a positive cash flow. Prior to the contract, the county used to pay $25,000, I understand, to the previous concessionaire or manager. So the fact that we do actually have this money coming in is actually a positive, net positive to the county. So, yeah, I don't think there's any desire for a legal challenge, but if there was something set up years ago by a previous commission that established an enterprise fund at the silos, is that legal? I don't know. Is there a misunderstanding between either Luxon and Murphy or the process that was done to start the trust? I don't know. And I think until we have maybe somebody to dig into it, we really can't make any decisions. If the decision not to take the 20% out was made in December at this commission meeting, it was December 30th, and it was Commissioner Solifka moved to approve the decision of the trust board to purchase docks from Goose Bay Marina for Broadwater Bay in the amount of $61,000, and to send a letter to Gerald Reller stating the same. Motion seconded by Commissioner Olbert and carried. So we didn't do the 20%. At that time, it was part of the commission record. And it was also, you know, looking back, it wasn't a decision at the time that I recall, but looking back, you have to rewrite the contract in order to increase the percentage. So those are all things we can look at, but we need a firm understanding
2 points
first.
clarification. It had nothing to do with the lease agreement. This was done with the trust board, boat slips, gonna generate $40,000 a year. We wanted 20% of that to go back to the rec board. So it does not, this is a sidebar agreement. You can open up the lease again if you'd like, had nothing to do with it. Going back to Luxon and Murphy, that's not legal counsel, that is an accountant that filed for a 501(c). You don't need to get into a review on a Luxon and Murphy doing a 501(c) application for us. And it didn't specify, and recreation. The Canyon Ferry bill specifies the trust board can spend their money on recreation, it does not have to be at the silos.
So
We
the
need some answers.
20% that was supposed to come back, that's supposed to go to the trust board, that's not an agreement between the county and Sharon, that's an agreement between the trust board and Sharon.
Yes, now, Laura pointed out at that meeting that the trust board doesn't do contracts. So it was all a verbal agreement, everybody agreed on it at the time. When it hit the commission desk, it turned up missing. That portion of it went up in feathers. Do we have legal recourse on a verbal agreement? Yeah, we probably do. We've elected not to go there. I do not fault Sharon Walker one bit in this. She is a private businesswoman that's done a good job and does a good job out there. And the fact that she's making a fabulous amount of money based on a terrible contract, and we're not going after her for the 20%, good for her. That's cash. All that does is make her bottom line better. What it did do from a trust board standpoint, we don't think she has credibility with the trust board right now, or with me anyway, personally. You can't agree to pay me 20% and then not do it. And if you do back out of that verbal agreement, don't come back for more money. And it stopped development at the silos, which is a shame. We were gonna put up new gazebos. That stopped. The green belts, that stopped. The hike bike path. We've got so many things that we had on the board that since the credibility's been lost out there, all that stopped. You need a new contract out there. And maybe it's with Sharon, or the new concessionaires, but you need a new contract. This thing is terrible.
I agree.
With some accountability.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes.
again, as a paper pusher for the trust board, the letter to the commissioners, and I think I provided it, if not I can, from the trust board in 2013, when they approved the 61,000, said the stipulation is the 20%. The letter back from the commissioner said, we're happy to partner with you, warm and fuzzy. It never said, but we don't agree to the 20%.
We presumed it had been put in.
So we assumed not assumed, we knew that the commissioners agreed to the grant as the trust board gave it to you. So I would ask, again, as the secretary, I check everything off. If the trust board comes to you with something else like that and you don't agree to part of it, we need to know that in writing. Because that is a lot of this confusion.
Thank you.
One of the things that I would like to do, Mike, in the new year is have kind of an education opportunity, a discussion around the table. I'm not sure from the books that we've seen that the silos is a cash cow. We do have documentation from Sharon showing how much money she spends. I gave you a copy of this as well, I think, last week. You know, it's pretty substantial what we charge our concessionaire with out there. And so I think it'd be good for the public to have full knowledge of that. Especially if there's others who are interested in the contract, to know exactly what needs to be done out there. And to hold it against Sharon, I don't think that's fair. We follow the auditor. If the auditor is mistaken, perhaps he is, I don't know. Maybe the auditor is 100% right on in telling us this is an enterprise fund. Your agreement with Sharon had to be, because the money comes to the county, has to be agreed on by the county, and we have to adjust the lease agreement or the concessionaire agreement in order to do that. So if the commission doesn't do that, even though it's what the trust board wants and there was a verbal agreement, it's not gonna happen. I don't remember off the top of my head what happened. All I'm doing is relying on the minutes. But since then, verifying the enterprise fund status and requirements with accounting, it's pretty strict. So, you know, all we can do is go by the black and white. And that's why I was asking for more things in writing, so that we have that paper trail of understanding.
I think that it could not be clearer, Tom Budowitz's paragraph there saying, the money from the Silos campgrounds goes to the trust board, and we can spend it as we see fit, at the silos or elsewhere in the county. So that's pretty good clarification. A state auditor at some time saying, oh, let's classify this as an enterprise account, maybe adds brackets and parameters that can prevent, but it does not overwrite the bill. And they misclassified it apparently, and we don't want to hide behind that and prevent a good contract in the future, or expending those trust funds cash in the right direction. That's the state and federal government and all of them, they make decisions and they don't realize the ramifications down. Oh, that's an enterprise fund. Oh, now it has brackets and you can't do anything with money. You've got to lose money there. Oh, that's not what they meant. So it was, maybe it's misclassified.
Do you have a comment?
No, sir.
Okay.
Mr. Chairman, so one thing I've learned when I was doing this with the city is if it's an enterprise fund, there are restrictions on not only its use, obviously, in the accounting, but also any loans that are given to that, the lender has to charge them an interest rate that's the market rate. And so if that money comes out of what other fund to give them a temporary tie-over loan, I don't know how many loans have happened in the past, then it's required to charge a market rate interest back to whoever loaned the money.
I would assume we would need a motion to void this contract and open it up for new bidding.
I think the contract says we do that at 90 days. I think we need to follow it.
Either party notifies the other in writing of an intent not to renew the agreement at least 90 days prior to the annual termination date.
So the motion would be then that we intend to reevaluate and open up for bid the concessionaire agreement for the Silos Recreation Area, correct?
Yes. Yeah.
Would that include notice to the current concessionaire that their contract will be canceled and process opened again?
Yeah, because we have to notify her within at least 90 days prior to the annual termination.
And it's at least 90 days, so you could do it now and it would be appropriate.
Yeah. Al?
So when you open this up for bid, is it then available or advertised so that national level concessionaires that operate either around here or that operate this size of facility would have an ability to compete on that, or are you gonna restrict it?
I would assume that it would be, yes. Would be open,
Okay.
open bidding.
Okay.
So Corey, would you would have to rewrite this contract?
Yeah, I haven't seen this thing. Could I have a week to look at this, or at least next Monday? I'm have a meeting with you on a lot of issues. I just wanna make sure we're not triggering some weird thing in this by giving notice that you wanna reopen it. But, so it appears that we're talking, is it April 1?
Until March 31st.
Till March 31st, okay. Yeah, so you could do more than 90 days notice if you want to.
So when would we have to have the new contract out to get bids on it before? We'd have to do that within the 90 days? Or could we do that as soon as the contract's ready? What kind of a deadline do we have to have a new contract out?
Yeah, you could put out basically the notice that you're accepting bids prior to 90 days. You could do it pretty quickly, and that way you've got, if you reselect her or you select somebody else, you've got time for that to kick in as of that date.
Okay. So is there a motion then?
I think Corey just asked us to wait till Monday,
Oh,
so
okay.
I'll move we table.
Okay. So we'll table this until Monday then. Is there any other business? If not, we will adjourn at
Can I have this? Can I have this one?
11:39.
Thanks, Steve. Hey, Roger.
Hey, how you doing?
I am well, how are you?
You know me, I'm always